The evening tide, the captain said. "You are a true patriot," Fedorov said, his eyes glistening with tears. He thrust the envelope across the table. "This is half. I will pay you the balance when the passengers arrive." Shortly before midnight on the day of departure, as Tovrov paced the fog-shrouded deck alone, a vehicle squealed to a halt at the bottom of the gangplank. The headlights and engine were turned off. Doors opened and closed, and there was the murmur of voices and the scuffle of boots on wet cobblestones. A tall figure wearing a hooded cloak climbed the gangway, stepped onto the deck, and came over to the captain. Then a deep male voice spoke from the dark hole under the cowling. "Where are the passengers' quarters?" "I'll show you," Tovrov said. "No, tell me." "Very well. The cabins are on the bridge, one deck up. The ladder is over there." "Where are your crew?" "They are all in their bunks." "See that they stay there. Wait here." The man silently made his way to the ladder and climbed to the officers' cabins on the deck below the wheelhouse. Minutes later he returned from his inspection. "We're coming aboard. Stay out of the way. Over there." He pointed toward the bow, then descended to the quay. Tovrov was wise enough not to argue with a man who towered above him. The group huddled on the quay and filed onto the ship. Tovrov heard the sleepy voice of a young girl or boy being shushed by an adult as the passengers made their way to their quarters. Others followed, lugging boxes or steamer trunks. The last person onto the ship was Fedorov. "Well, my good fellow," he said cheerily to Tovrov, clapping his gloves together for warmth. "That's the last of it. Is everything ready?" "We sail when you give the order." "Consider it given. Here is the rest of your money." He handed Tovrov an envelope that crackled with new bills. Then, unexpectedly, he embraced the captain in a bear hug and kissed him on both cheeks. "Mother Russia can never pay you enough," he whispered. "Tonight you make history." He released the astounded captain and descended the gangway. The captain steered the ship through the winding channel and around fog-shrouded boats as easily as a porpoise using its natural radar. Years of steaming between Odessa and Constantinople had engraved the route in his brain, and he knew without resorting to charts or channel markers how many turns of the wheel to make. The first mate went to sleep, and the crew settled in their bunks, while the first shift of stokers fed the coal into the boilers. At the helm, the captain had just lit up a potent Turkish cigarette when a tall man stepped inside and shut the door behind him. "Lights," he said in a baritone voice that identified him as the figure who had been the first to come aboard. Tovrov pulled the cord for the bare bulb that hung from the overhead. The man had thrown back his hood. He was tall and lean and wore a white fur hat known as a papaka at a rakish angle. A pale dueling scar slashed his right cheek above the beard line. His skin was red and blistered with snow burn, and sparkling drops of moisture matted his black hair and beard. His left iris was clouded from an injury or disease, and his staring good eye made him look like a lopsided cyclops. The fur-lined cloak had fallen open to reveal a pistol holster at his belt, and in his hand he carried a rifle. A cartridge bandolier crossed his chest, and a saber hung from his belt. He was dressed in a muddy gray tunic, and his feet were shod with high black leather boots. The uniform, and his air of barely repressed violence, identified him as a Cossack, one of the fierce warrior caste who inhabited the rim of the Black Sea. The man glanced around the deserted wheelhouse. "Alone?" "The first mate is sleeping back there," Tovrov said with a jerk of his hand. "He is drunk and doesn't hear anything." He fumbled with a cigarette and offered the man one. "My name is Major Peter Yakolev," the man said, waving the cigarette away. "You will do as you are told, Captain Tovrov." "You may trust me to be at your service, Major." "I trust no one." He stepped closer and spit out the words. "Not the White Russians nor the Reds, not the Germans nor the British. They are all against us. Even Cossacks have gone over to the Bolsheviks." He glared at the captain, searching for a nuance of defiance. seeing no threat in the captain's bland expression.